My name is Masahiro Sugiyama. I'm an associate professor at the Institute of Future Initiative, the University of Tokyo. I work on climate policy and climate geoengineering in terms of public engagement. Scientists always get excited about all kinds of new innovations, but sometimes people don't like a particular technology. So we can steer the direction of technological development. And that's why we have to listen to the people. Scientists have been actually calling for public engagement for many, many years, but the study has been mostly confined to the Western society. So that's why I am looking at the attitudes in the Asia-Pacific region. It's interesting that those from developing countries like China and India and the Philippines, they are more open to the idea of solar geoengineering. This might be because these countries are more vulnerable to climate change. So once climate change started affecting these countries, and for instance, the Philippines, so they see gigantic typhoons every year. And whether it is directly related to climate change or not, they see the impacts of weather and climate firsthand. So they are more worried about climate change. In other words, they are desperate. So they are, I think, more open to the idea of solar geoengineering. One of the most often discussed technology among solar geoengineering is to spray sulfuric acid or aerosol particles into the stratosphere. Scientists can dream up many different types of aerosol particles, but which one would people like? What kind of a governance framework would people like to see? People would like to see, for instance, the international regulation has the United Nations. We need to have an international research project to foster common understanding of this technology. And of course, China must be involved, United States must be involved, and Japan must be involved, in my opinion. Because solar geoengineering is going to affect everyone in the world, we need African inputs and viewpoints from the Latin America or all parts of the world. Geoengineering itself comes with its own risks. Most often discussed risk is what's called the termination effect. So when you mask global warming with a lot of solar geoengineering, so if basically you turn down the global thermostat by 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, perhaps. So you can avoid the impacts of climate change. But let's assume this solar geoengineering has been funded by the American government. Maybe American government there's some financial issue or fiscal issue, and they decided to defund this program. Then this masked warming, let's say maybe 3 degrees, 2 degrees, this will be unmasked immediately. So we will experience a rapid global warming after the termination of solar geoengineering. Another risk is social risk. So if the world gets confused about the benefits and the risks of solar geoengineering, maybe they believe in the good potential of solar geoengineering, then maybe we over-rely on solar geoengineering without cutting emissions. If we pursue this current path, maybe we're going to see more and more damages from climate change. The world could get desperate. And if we don't have enough evidence basis for solar geoengineering, maybe some countries could resort to using this technology without much understanding, without solid scientific evidence. So we could easily misuse this technology. And that's why we need to have a solid understanding of this technology. For instance, what is the damage of solar geoengineering on the human health and the ecology, biodiversity? We have some basic understanding, but it's not on par with other fields of climate science. We need far better understanding of solar geoengineering if we ever decide to use it. Climate change could keep getting worse and worse. mitigation is the most important thing. I'm a big fan of solar power, especially, and electric vehicles. And we should electrify the demand side. We need to introduce electric vehicles, heat pump air conditioners, heat pump water heaters, and we have to introduce electrifying technologies in the industry as well. So that's the first thing. And of course, we have to use hydrogen and synthetic fuels or maybe bioenergy. And we have to shift our way fossil fuels. And that's the most basic but most important thing we have to do. And we are doing, but the point is we are not doing it fast enough and deep enough. That's the key concern I have. Solar geoengineering, it's like chemotherapy for cancer. So it's like a final last resort. But if we should, obviously we should do a healthy diet, we should do healthy exercise in the first place. That's mitigation and that's adaptation. And about maybe there's something, if we over-rely on solar geoengineering, we might forget about these basic things we should do. Instead, I greatly support deep mitigation and very proper policies for adaptation and a little bit of a carbon dioxide removal. We definitely need to remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. What the scientists are most worried about is what's called tipping elements. So once you go beyond this certain kind of a threshold, the climate system could go through a total change in the entire system. So maybe geoengineering could help us avoid these kind of damages. So that's why I believe in the research on solar geoengineering. Maybe we can use the solar geoengineering to cool the Earth by 0.5 degrees, maybe 0.25 degrees. We don't have to over-rely on this technology, but maybe we can use this as a last resort and also even temporarily. But we don't know how to do it. And even if we start using it, can we really restrain ourselves so that we stop at 1.5 degrees or something like that? So that's why we need a robust governance regime to restrain ourselves and also free ourselves from unnecessary risks. When it comes to climate change, I think the Chinese government is very strategic and taking very clever, very smart decisions. So I'm familiar with what Professor John Moore at Beijing Normal University and his colleagues have been doing. They publish high quality papers, and it's transparent. It's the usual science, and all this is good. And just like Chinese colleagues, my colleagues in Japan, we have joined the international research program called the Geoengineering Model Intercomparison Project. So international collaboration has been happening, albeit on a small scale. So we have to expand it. But both Chinese and Japanese researchers have been part of it. And so it's all great, all good. But I don't know about the future.